Today we're doing a deep dive on booking domestic Delta flights with points. We're going to cover how to earn SkyMiles, how to find deals when you use them directly, and when it makes sense to book Delta flights through a partner program. Welcome back to Points for Normal People. I'm Katie, and I believe travel isn't just for the rich. I'm here to share easy-to-follow tips to help you supercharge your travel points so that you can pay for entire vacations every year. We're covering a lot in today's episode, but if you've listened to previous episodes, you should have a good framework for understanding this information. I always try to keep my episodes beginner-friendly, but I do write them to build knowledge sequentially. So if something feels hard to understand, the best thing that you can do is go back and make sure you've listened to previous episodes in order. Before we get into Delta today, I want to give a shout out to my friend Camry from Our Family Passport. Delta is her family's go-to airline. She knows SkyMiles really well, and she contributed some great tips for this episode. I'll link one of her articles in the show notes. Now, my family mostly flies Southwest, but a lot of you live near Delta hubs, Atlanta, Detroit, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City. If that's you, this episode is for you. And even if Delta isn't your everyday airline, understanding this is worth your time because Delta has so many routes that sometimes it might be your best or only option. We'll start with explaining Delta SkyMiles in full before we move to partner airlines. The first thing I think that you need to understand is that Delta uses fully dynamic pricing. There's no published award chart anymore. The number of SkyMiles a flight costs can vary enormously based on demand, the time of year, and the day that you're searching. The same route might cost 8,000 miles on a Tuesday in February and 40,000 miles over spring break. It's genuinely unpredictable. But, and this is important, dynamic pricing isn't all bad. When there are sales, they can be really good. And there are some strategies to help you find them. So let's get into it. Before you can book with Delta SkyMiles, you'll have to earn some. The most obvious way is opening a Delta co-branded American Express card and earning a welcome offer. American Express issues 7 Delta cards, 4 personal and 3 business. The personal cards start with the no annual fee Delta SkyMiles Blue American Express card, and then go up in annual fee from there with versions like the Gold, the Platinum, and the Reserve cards. The business cards have a similar structure, but without the Blue version. So with the business cards, you also have Gold, Platinum, and Reserve. It's really important to note that these cards have the same family language that you see in the application rules for some other American Express cards. Essentially, if you want to earn a welcome offer on all of them, you need to start with the lowest fee card and move up from there. Essentially, the terms say you are not eligible to receive a bonus if you've ever earned a bonus on the same card or a higher tiered card in the same family. So if you get the highest fee card first, you can't then go back and get the Gold card. In order to be eligible to earn a bonus on each card, you would start with Blue and then Gold and then Platinum and then get the Reserve last. Now, I think it's also okay to skip the Blue and go straight to Gold, but that's the general strategy. Business and personal cards are 2 separate families, so you can get the personal Gold and also the business Gold. But both personal and business Delta cards have those family eligibility rules where you should start with the lower annual fee card. Because you can also only get these offers once per lifetime with Amex, you also want to wait for an elevated offer, usually about 90,000 miles or higher. Remember too that when Amex says lifetime, usually they mean 7 years. And once you have one of these cards open, you can ask for a retention offer every year when your annual fee posts. You can do that via chat when you're logged in. Just say that you're thinking about canceling and ask what they have for retention offers. Beyond the co-branded cards, you can also transfer American Express membership rewards points to Delta at a 1-to-1 ratio. Delta is actually the only major US airline that charges a small fee to transfer in, about 0.006 cents per point, so 100,000 points would run you a $60 fee. Not necessarily a deal breaker, but it is worth knowing. I have a whole episode on American Express membership rewards, so go back to that one if you missed it for more on those cards and that whole ecosystem. Delta also has a number of earning opportunities that most people never set up, and that cost you nothing to do so. The SkyMiles shopping portal lets you earn extra miles by clicking through before buying at certain retailers. This is the same concept as Rakuten or American Airlines and Alaska have similar programs as well that I've talked about in previous episodes. Like other airlines, there's also dining programs where you can link a card and earn miles at participating restaurants automatically. But you can't link the same card to multiple programs. So if you have a card linked to Rakuten or Bilt, for instance, you won't also be able to link it to the SkyMiles dining program and earn. If you really want to go all in on SkyMiles, you could either choose to link to SkyMiles dining, or you could link to Rakuten, assuming you have Rakuten linked to Amex. Again, if this is confusing, go back to that Amex episode to review and it should make sense. Delta also has some unique lifestyle partnerships with Uber, Airbnb, and Starbucks. Earnings are modest, but it can be worth just setting up. With Uber, you just need to link it once in the app. I'll add that link to the show notes. Starbucks is similar, and this is also easy. You just need to link one time. Earnings are just for reloads of more than $25 to your account, or you can earn extra on a day that you're flying with Delta. Earning Delta miles when you book an Airbnb cannot be automated, but it's worth knowing. What you have to do is before you go to book an Airbnb, you need to go to the Delta Airbnb landing page, and it will prompt you to enter your SkyMiles number and click through to the Airbnb site, where it then should track your booking and award you 1 mile per dollar spent. Note that your name on the SkyMiles account needs to match the name on the Airbnb account. I will also add that link in the show notes. You can also earn miles when you fly with Delta with the bags on time guarantee. So if your checked bag doesn't arrive at the carousel within 20 minutes of your plane parking at the gate on a domestic flight, you can get 2,500 miles per person who checked a bag. You can go to the baggage office to claim this, or there's an online form as well. Alaska has a similar one I talked about a few episodes ago. Again, worth knowing. One more quick note is that currently SkyMiles never expire, which is great news. Unlike a lot of programs where inactivity might wipe out your balance, SkyMiles stay put indefinitely. So that's an overview of how to earn SkyMiles. Now let's talk about how to redeem them wisely. Dynamic pricing means you have to know where to look. Delta does run sales, sometimes really good ones, but they don't always announce them loudly. One thing that's an important difference from other airlines is round-trip pricing. With most airlines, 2 one-way tickets with points cost the same as 1 round trip. But Delta often gives you a discount when you book round trip. This is especially true for international flights, but can be true for domestic flights as well, and that difference can be significant. So before you default to booking 2 separate one-ways, definitely check what the round-trip pricing would be. The first place you can check if you're flexible is the SkyMiles Award Deals page on Delta's website. You can enter your home airport and it pulls up current award flight deals out of there. Delta also has a deals and destinations page which shows cash prices. Now you might be thinking, why do I care about cash prices if I'm using miles? Well, because Delta's award pricing is dynamic, it can mean that it's using similar algorithms to their cash pricing. So if cash deals show up, award deals sometimes might follow. So it might be a useful signal even if you're paying with miles. For searching availability directly, Delta's own website works pretty well. You just have to check the box that says shop with miles, and then check my dates are flexible to pull up a calendar view showing a full month at a time so that you can spot the cheapest dates. The prices shown are typically for Main Basic, which is Delta's version of Basic Economy. If you want to exclude that, you can also uncheck Include Basic on the search page. If you have the Gold, Platinum, or Reserve Delta cards, you also automatically get 15% off all Delta award flights. It's called Takeoff 15. You don't have to do anything extra, just as long as you have that card linked. The only Delta card that doesn't include this is the no-fee Blue card. That 15% savings is for everyone on the reservation, so that really helps if you're booking for a family. There are a few more things you need to understand when it comes to booking. Delta changed some of the naming and terms of fare classes in late 2025. For domestic flights, they are now Main Basic, Main Classic, Comfort, and First. Again, the prices that you see when searching will typically default to Main Basic. But generally, I'm going to recommend you skip over Main Basic because I think it's too restrictive. Main Classic costs a few more miles, but gets you free seat selection and the no-fee cancellation policy. Now, due to dynamic pricing, the variation between main basic and classic can be unpredictable, but I still recommend only booking main basic if you're really sure you're taking that flight and you don't think it's going to drop in price at all. Those basic awards can be changed or canceled, but there's a fee that's going to be charged to you in miles. For any fare class above main basic, if your flight originates in the US or Canada, you can cancel for free up to departure time and get all of your miles back. Changes are also free, though of course you pay any fare difference. Another helpful tool would be to use a site like Points Yeah or seats.aero. Those are some of the points aggregator tools I've mentioned before. You could use these for searching, and I'll go over that with partner bookings in a few minutes. But these are also helpful for their award alerts. Because Delta prices dynamically, it's going to help you out. After you book a flight with SkyMiles, it would be a great habit to find that exact flight on seats.aero or Points Yeah and set an alert for it. You'll want to filter this specifically for Delta. Then you can opt in for notifications if the price drops so that you can rebook it for the lower price. So that's the big picture overview of SkyMiles with a few tricks woven in. If you're planning to regularly fly Delta, you will very likely want to get at least one of the Delta cards with an annual fee to unlock that 15% discount, and you'll also get free checked bags. Each of the cards has some additional benefits as well. I'm not going to deep dive into them here, but just remember, if you haven't had any Delta cards, I recommend you start with either the Delta Gold or the Delta Gold Business Card, and then work upwards by annual fee if you want another one. Delta SkyMiles aren't the only way to book Delta flights. Sometimes you can book the exact same Delta flight, same plane, same seats, same everything, through one of Delta's partner programs for fewer points than Delta itself would charge. If you've been listening to Season 3, this concept should be familiar. I've talked about using partner airlines to book American Airlines flights through Avios, using Alaska Miles to book American flights, and so on. The same principle applies here. Delta is in the SkyTeam Alliance. I'm going to focus on two of Delta's SkyTeam partners in particular, Air France and KLM, which have the joint program Flying Blue, and Virgin Atlantic Flying Club. So these sometimes cheaper prices happen because each airline sets its own prices. Now, we know Delta prices its own awards dynamically, so higher demand flights can get very expensive. But Flying Blue and Virgin Atlantic use their own pricing models that don't always track with what Delta is charging. So one reason to book via Flying Blue or Virgin Atlantic is that it might be cheaper for you. It's also easier to earn Flying Blue or Virgin Atlantic miles than it is to earn Delta SkyMiles. As we covered earlier, really the main ways to get Delta SkyMiles are to earn them directly with Delta or to transfer from American Express and pay that small fee. But every single major bank program, Chase Ultimate Rewards, American Express Membership Rewards, Capital One, Citi, Bilt, all transfer to both Flying Blue and Virgin. So it just means you have a lot more options to earn these points. And banks run transfer bonuses to Flying Blue and Virgin Atlantic pretty regularly. 20 to 30% bonuses from various banks are really common to see throughout the year. Now, I've talked about this idea throughout Season 3. When a transfer bonus lines up with a good award price, that's when you can really stretch your points. So I recommend signing up for transfer bonus alerts. I will link to a resource in the show notes where you can do that. That helps you be alerted, especially if these are regular flights that you plan to be booking. Now, it's a little hard to predict which flights Delta will release to partners like Flying Blue and Virgin and allow them to book. It's not like you can just book 11 months in advance and know that you're going to get that flight with Flying Blue or Virgin. It's all dynamic, and so it can change every day, and that's an extra challenge here. Unlike American and United, which generally only release Saver Awards to partners, this also isn't necessarily true of Delta, since Delta doesn't officially have Saver Awards anymore. It also doesn't let all of its seats be booked by partner airlines. So just because a flight is available at Delta's site does not mean it will be available to book with Flying Blue or Virgin. But sometimes they are. And sometimes it's going to help you save. So let's talk briefly about how these partner airlines price, and then how to find flights at a good price. Flying Blue uses dynamic pricing just like Delta does. So prices move around, and you have to check what's available on the day you search. One thing worth mentioning, Flying Blue actually quietly lowered award prices on a lot of the Delta routes by 20 to 30% for 2026 flights compared to 2025. Now, that's not guaranteed to last, but it's a momentary sweet spot. Virgin Atlantic uses a distance-based award chart for Delta flights within the US and Canada. So if Delta flights are bookable with Virgin, they will have predictable pricing. Flights under 500 miles are 7,500 points each way. Flights between 500 and 1,000 miles are 11,000 points each way. And then pricing continues up from there. Virgin charges per segment, so this is generally only a good value for nonstop flights and is generally a better value for shorter flights. One thing to note when you're comparing prices is that when you book Delta through Flying Blue or Virgin Atlantic, you're not booked into basic economy. You're booking into a fare class that does include free seat selection, so that can be a big plus. The biggest downside to booking via partner airlines is cancellation fees. Remember that Delta SkyMiles lets you cancel for free on US originating flights if you book Main Classic. Flying Blue charges €70, roughly $70 to $80 to change or cancel per person. So for a family of 4, a change of plans could cost you $300 just in fees. Only book through Flying Blue if you're confident the trip is happening. Virgin Atlantic charges $100 per ticket to change or cancel, but they have a useful quirk. If the total taxes and fees on your booking were less than $100, you can just forfeit those fees instead of paying the full cancellation fee. For domestic Delta flights in the US, taxes are $5.60 each way. So in practice, canceling a domestic Delta award booked through Virgin is close to free. You just lose $5.60 or $11.20 on a round trip. I'll also note that Virgin Atlantic can't book Delta Premium Select, which is Delta's premium economy cabin. If that's what you're after, you'd need Delta SkyMiles or Flying Blue. When you go to search, you can search for these partner flights directly on the Virgin Atlantic website, or for Flying Blue, you could search on Air France or KLM. But I actually recommend that you go straight to an aggregator tool to compare, because neither of these sites have a super clear and easy to use interface. My personal recommendation is to use seats.aero to search for Delta partner availability. I've talked about this tool throughout season 3, and there's a full tutorial webinar inside my free course at learn.katiestraveltricks.com, so I'll link that in the show notes. Here's how I'd approach the search. Go to seats.aero and enter your departure and arrival airports and dates. If you want to see Delta flights specifically, you can filter for SkyTeam Alliance, and that's going to show you the same Delta flights, but tell you which programs have them available, either Delta directly, Flying Blue, or Virgin Atlantic, and at what price. What's really useful is that you can see all 3 programs side by side for the same flight. You can sort by lowest economy price to quickly see who's offering the best deal. When you find something promising, you can click the little eye on the right to see the specific flight information. Now here's the important reminder I say every time I talk about award searches. Do not transfer your points until you have confirmed the flight is available on the actual partner website. Seats.aero is a great search tool, but it's not where you book. Once you find something on seats.aero, go confirm it on the Virgin Atlantic or Air France website directly before you move any points over, because transfers are not reversible. Points Yeah is another option for this search, and it has a good free tier that lets you set award alerts as well. I'd suggest trying both and seeing which interface you prefer. So generally, I'd recommend starting your search on seats.aero or Points Yeah first to identify which dates have availability. Then once you've found a date that looks promising, go to the Air France, KLM, or Virgin website and search that specific date to confirm the price and availability before you transfer to book. You'd need a loyalty account with Flying Blue or Virgin before it will even let you search sometimes. And again, keep in mind that Flying Blue is a shared program between Air France and KLM, and so you can run award searches on either the Air France or the KLM website. When you are searching on Flying Blue or Virgin, I recommend you search one way at a time rather than round trip. Earlier in the episode, I mentioned that Delta SkyMiles pricing is often better for round trip versus booking 2 separate one-ways. But this isn't true for partner bookings. If you look at one ways with partners, it gives you a cleaner view of what's available to make it easier to compare. And if you need multiple seats, make sure to specify that in your search so you're only seeing results where enough seats are available for your whole group. Here's another thing that's important to know before you start searching. The award availability calendar on the Air France website doesn't work for Delta flights, so that can trip people up. If you click through the calendar view hoping to browse a whole month of Delta availability, it won't necessarily show what you're looking for. You have to search specific dates instead, which is why I recommend you start with another tool like seats.aero or points, so that you can see them all for multiple dates. Again, once you find a flight that you want to book and confirm it, that's when you want to transfer your points. You always want to confirm that the flight is showing as available and at the price you expect before moving any points over. Flying Blue and Virgin transfers from major banks are typically instant or near instant, so you don't need to transfer way in advance. Confirm first, then transfer, and then book. Let me give you just a few quick examples from pricing that we pulled while working on this episode. So Atlanta to New York, Delta was charging 17,800 SkyMiles, Flying Blue was charging 19,000, Virgin Atlantic 22,000. This was for a round trip. So in this case, Delta was actually the cheapest. And that was without even that 15% off if you were a card member. Another route we checked was Detroit to Los Angeles. Delta was charging 47,200 SkyMiles. Flying Blue was charging 31,000 and Virgin Atlantic was charging 37,000. Here, Delta is significantly more expensive, and Flying Blue is going to save you 16,000 miles per person. For a family of 4, that's 64,000 miles saved on that one route, maybe more if you're able to take advantage of a transfer bonus. Another one we checked, Salt Lake City to Honolulu. Delta was charging 61,600 SkyMiles for the round trip. Flying Blue was charging 38,000. Virgin Atlantic was charging 55,000. Again, in this one, Flying Blue was the winner, and we're talking about a 23,000 mile savings per person. So again, the takeaway is not that partner programs are always cheaper, it's that they're sometimes cheaper, and it takes maybe 5 minutes to check once you're used to the award tools. Given how much you can save, that's almost always worth it. Here's a simple framework for how to think through booking a Delta flight. If you have a specific route and dates in mind, start by checking what Delta is charging directly with SkyMiles. Use the flexible date calendar and check both one way, but importantly, be sure to check round trip pricing. This step is important because Delta has a great tool there, especially for that round trip pricing, to see the cheapest dates combined. Make some notes on what you find. Then head to a flight tool to check both Virgin Atlantic and Flying Blue at the same time. You could do this by going to each website if you want, but again, the flight tools is going to be faster. Then factor in what points you actually have, what cancellation flexibility you need, and whether there's a transfer bonus running to any of these programs right now. And as always, check cash prices too. Sometimes a Delta flight is inexpensive enough that booking through a bank travel portal at a fixed cents per point, yes, even 1 cent per point value, might take the fewest points out of your pocket. So don't skip that check. Let's move on to action steps for today. If you haven't already, I'm going to suggest that you link your SkyMiles account to Starbucks and Uber, because those are just set it and forget it. Make a mental note that you can also earn via Airbnb, but you're going to have to do that one manually anytime you go to book an Airbnb. If you plan to fly Delta regularly, I recommend looking into one of the Delta Gold cards to start. Also, bookmark the SkyMiles award deals page so you can easily check what's showing for your home airport. I also recommend you sign up for transfer partner alerts if you think that you might be booking with a transfer partner in the future. I have a link for this one in the show notes as well. And if you want to level up, go into my free course, watch the webinar about seats.aero to get more familiar with that tool. Another thing you can do is just practice searching routes. Pull up a route you might realistically fly on Delta. Search it on Delta directly and then on Flying Blue and on Virgin Atlantic. Try out Points or seats.aero just to start getting comfortable with how different the pricing can be. You don't have to book anything, just look. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I look forward to seeing you next time where we will continue to unlock these secrets of travel points together.